So yesterday I had my trailer plugged in to house power using the dog bone extension cord uh, combo. And when I was touching the frame of the door, I was getting an electric shock, especially down here. Like if I were to touch these screws, I was getting a zap when I was outside. And so I did some research, and I guess the term is called hot skin or hot chassis, or I like to call it spicy door. And the research that I looked up said, yeah, look for, a bad ground pin on your dog bone or your extension cord or your house. And I was gonna tear into some stuff in the house, but then I'm like, yeah, let's look at this guy. And I diagnosed it. You can kind of figure out what circuit it is by turning each one of these off, obviously not the main, but turning each one of these off one by one and then going and checking the door. So I flicked off this one, I went and checked the door, it still had the current running through it, or the voltage. So then I flipped off the next one and still had it, and then I flipped off this middle one and it went away. So I knew, okay, the problem was somehow involving this circuit here, which was just a couple of plugs. It was the bathroom GFI plug and the one in the kitchen. So if I couldn't figure it out, at least I could turn that one off, and then we wouldn't have those plugs, but we also wouldn't have a electrically charged frame of trailer. But then I went ahead and I was about to start taking the plugs out and looking for bad grounds. But what I did, and before you do this, make sure you unplug the trailer from power so none of this is energized. I took off these 3 screws, and you can take off this panel, and then you can see all the wiring for the breakers. There's the black ones go into this side of the breaker, the white wires go into a neutral bus that's here, and then the grounds, the bare copper, goes up to a ground bus up here. And one of the wires, the ground, wasn't screwed into the bus, and I'm thinking, can it really be that easy? And I went ahead and screwed the end of that. There's little screws that you screw down onto the wire. So I put the wire up the hole, and then I screwed it down so it was in there tight. And then I went and I plugged the power back in, turned all the breakers back on, and that did it. So it could be just a real simple, well, in this case, it was a real simple ground wire that wasn't hooked up to the ground bus, which was probably the easiest thing it could have been, instead of having to pull outlets out of the wall and looking at the wiring and figuring it out. But anyway, that solved that problem. So if this helps diagnose and fix a hot skin problem, then it was an effort well made.